So this is the top 5 players most likely to win MVP. And I'm starting off this list with Anthony Davis because we're looking at Anthony Davis, he's a great all-around power forward. He's a really good shooter, he's athletic, he's a great defender. He's just an all-around beast who can really put points on the board as well as play incredible defense. And I've been wanting him to win Defensive Player of the Year for a while now. It's just not happening. But with a few injuries as well as players missing, aka Drew Holiday, Tyreek Evans, it's going to be difficult for the Pelicans to put up wins early. And that has shown throughout the early stages of the NBA season. But the sort of numbers Anthony Davis is putting up, it's hard to overlook it and think that, well, these are MVP numbers. But the Pelicans as a team, without their core three, Holiday, Evans, and Anthony Davis, how are they going to win without these guys? Of course, they have Anthony Davis, but I mean without Holiday and without Tyreek Evans. But offensively, this as a team, you've got no real scoring. You have Etuan Moore, who he put up almost 8 points a game for the Bulls at one time, and he a good 3-point shooter as well as pretty decent when it comes to attacking the rim. He's not an all-time great at it, but he's still going to put probably 10 points up on the board, and that's probably your second best scorer on the team at the moment. Of course, you have Buddy Hield, but he's coming off the bench early, and by the time he's starting, I think Drew Holiday or Tyreek Evans, they'd be back by then. I don't know how long Tyreek Evans is out for, but I know Holiday's out for just a month or so. But yeah, Anthony Davis is number 5 on my MVP list. If the Rockets can maintain an above or a 500 record or an above 500 record, then I think James Harden has as good a chance to win the MVP. So far, playing him at point guard's really working for the Rockets. He's getting plenty of assists. He's making plays. There's a lot of great shooters on the team. They're knocking down their shots. James Harden's getting a bunch of assists to really start out the year. He's also scoring a hell of a lot, which is good for James Harden, because if he's been handed the keys to this offense, and the Rockets are another bad team, they've got potential to make the playoffs. I think this team may not be a top 4 team, but I definitely see them making the playoffs. And it's all starting with James Harden at the point guard position. If he's putting up 28, 30 points with like 6 rebounds and 8 assists, I mean, there's no reason why James Harden can't win the MVP. You can't do an MVP list without mentioning LeBron James. It's not possible. In the past 10 years, LeBron James is always in that top 5, top 10 to win the MVP. And that's because he's one hell of a good player. But there is a problem. He could be a bit more laid back. He could really give the offense to Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, which I think is what he should do. as of now and really save himself for the playoffs. Because we saw in the playoffs how good LeBron James can really be. But in terms of stats, I mean, I think he's still got a chance to put up 20 points. And I think around 8 rebounds and around 7 assists is something you can see LeBron James doing. I think he's going to be much higher when it comes to rebounding and playmaking. Because he's not scoring as much. And I think he's going to be a much better defensive stopper this year. He's going to be the guy that's going to lock down the main players. He's going to be the guy that's shut down Kevin Durant. He's going to be the guy to shut down someone like, I don't know, CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard. Because Kyrie Irving and J.R. Smith, they're not the best defenders. So I think LeBron James is going to be the real center of their defense. But in terms of offense and in terms of scoring, I see LeBron James really taking it down a notch. And when I say taking it down a notch, I mean giving a lot more opportunities to Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving especially. He's going to get a lot more rebounds, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, something around those numbers for LeBron James. At the number 2 spot, for most likely players to win MVP, we have Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's really taken a leap in the past couple seasons, especially in terms of offense. He's a knockdown three-point shooter. He's a great finisher around the rim. He'll dunk on pretty much anyone. And defensively, he's still the best defensive player in the league, in my opinion. He's won the past 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, so I mean, he's still a great defender, and now he's hitting the age where he's coming into his prime. And a lot of the guys, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, they're not going to be scoring. Well, obviously Tim Duncan isn't because he's not playing anymore, but Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili won't give you much more than 10 points a game. Now granted, they do have Pau Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge has really been on the trade block lately. He might be out. But as for Kawhi, I think he's capable of putting up 25 points a game, along with 6 or 7 rebounds, 3 or 4 assists, as well as being a fantastic defensive player. And another perk that he has is that he's on the Spurs, who is a top team in the Western Conference. I mean, as of right now, you can argue that they are the best team in the Western Conference. He is up there with the best of them, and if the Spurs can win over 60 games, it's likely that Kawhi Leonard can win the MVP. Now, before I get into my number 1, first of all, I want to do some honorable mentions. And there's no point in really showing gameplay because I'm only going to talk about them briefly. But first up, Paul George. The reason why I didn't put him in my top 5 is I don't really see him putting up any better numbers. I think this year is going to be a bit of the same as last year. Although the Pacers are going to win more games, I still feel as if Paul George isn't going to improve drastically on his numbers and on his game. I still think he's going to be a great player, but not MVP candidate. I think these players on this list have a much better chance. Now, another honorable mention. I'm putting Damian Lillard in there. He's having a great start to the season. I think he is going to be an elite scorer. I think he can climb up into the top 5. And that is if CJ McCollum cools down just a bit. Because you can't really share 60 points between the two every night. And my last honorable mention is, well, there's actually two people. You got Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. I think Kevin Durant's still one of the best players in the league, and you can't overlook him. He's still gonna be a great scorer, rebounder, and just good all-around player. And Steph Curry, who's won the last 2 MVPs, is also still going to be a great player, still going to be a fantastic 3-point shooter, and is still going to be, well, Steph Curry. He's going to be fancy. He's going to light the box score up. But because he's won the last 2, I think he's going to be very overlooked for MVP, because you don't really want to give someone who's won the past 2 a third one. And now, for my number 1 spot, Russell Westbrook is going to go full God mode this year. I mean, he has a ton of motivation. Kevin Durant left. The Thunder, they've been to the finals, they've been to the Western Conference Finals, and they've never been able to really get it done. But Westbrook without Durant, now he can really go off and might average close to a triple-double. 28 points, I reckon. Around 8 or 9 rebounds and around 8 or 9 assists for Russell Westbrook. There is one problem though. The Thunder, are they a contender still? They have a very solid backcourt. They got some really good young guards. They just acquired Jeremy Grant, who is a fantastic small forward, in my opinion. I think he's a very good defender. He's a good attacker of the rim. He can dunk on anyone. But he's also, I mean, he's not great at 3-point shooting. But when it comes to some mid-range game, he has that. But in terms of Russell Westbrook, I think the players around him, they're athletic, they're good on the defensive end, and the Thunder have their fair share of shooters as well. They have Anthony Morrow, who's a knockdown 3-point shooter. Sabonis is a good face-up big man. Kyle Singler can get you a 3-pointer here and there. But in terms of athleticism, this team is really up there. And who knows, they could make another trade to get even more. Which is going to be great for Russell Westbrook. Because if you're having him in it and Victor Oladipo running the fast break, there's not many teams that are going to really stop you. And he's going to go all into God mode this year, dunking on everyone. He's improved his shooting. So he's respectable from 3. I wouldn't really say respectable, but he is going to hit it. if he's feeling it from downtown. His mid-range game is extremely good. He has a great pull-up. Most of the time he's just going to go all the way and completely dunk on everyone in the paint.